Chicago's O'Hare Airport is the 9th busiest airport in the world. Combined with Midway, Chicago's two airports saw almost 100 million passengers in 2023. Both O'Hare and Midway are directly connected to Chicago's extensive L network, Midway via the Orange Line and O'Hare via the Blue. Both lines offer an easy way into downtown Chicago from the airports, and are some of only a few airport transit connections in the country that are viable alternatives to driving, especially whenever traffic is heavy. However, for years there has been a push for a faster connection between the Loop and Chicago's airports, which has spawned plans for an express L train, better Metra service, and the first iteration of what would become Elon Musk's Las Vegas car tunnel. But like a canceled flight, none of these plans ever got off the ground. The Blue and Orange lines offer a direct, easy connection from their respective airports to the Loop. However, their average speed is less than other airport trains outside of the US, like Toronto's Union Pearson Express. In fact, their average speed is less than half of that of London's Heathrow Express. Despite being just as frequent as these other services, and not to mention cheaper, this issue with speed helped form a plan to construct and operate an Airport Express L train in the city of Chicago, eventually culminating in an almost 900,000 cubic foot empty station underneath the Loop. This station's shell sits underneath Block 37, a combination mall, apartment, and office development in the Chicago Loop. The story of this block is wild, with one historical author even calling it a gold-plated hole in the ground. For this video, let's go to 2005, when the city sold the then empty lot to the Mills Corporation, who planned to develop the site. It was around this time that the Chicago Transit Authority applied for a federal loan to finance a transit superstation for express trains to each of Chicago's airports, and in 2005, struck an agreement with the Mills Corporation to build such a station within the new development. Construction began in 2006, and despite the Mills Corporation selling part of the project to another company, and the 2007-2008 recession, a 16-story mixed-use building opened on the site in September 2008, including offices, a shopping center, and the CTA's new station. The station is situated diagonally underground, allowing for easy access to both the Dearborn and State Street subways, which the proposed express trains would use. Ultimately, the service would have been contracted out to a private operator, as premium fare single market services are not CTA's traditional business, according to the agency. That single market? The price-insensitive business traveler, who wouldn't mind spending that premium fare for the service, which would have used refurbished, upgraded L cars with luggage space, 2x1 seating, and flight info screens. The initial study also recommended that the eventual service provider provide flight check-in and baggage tagging services at the station for the ultimate convenience. However, the refurbished train cars would not be ready opening day, and as part of the agreement with the Block 37 developer, the CTA had to provide service once the station opened until a private operator was contracted. The issue was, providing true express service to the airports would have required $1.5 billion in additional construction of new right-of-way, which also wouldn't have been completed in time for opening. Therefore, the CTA would run a direct service, which would have run about every 15 minutes and completely use existing L tracks. Midway trains would have to fight for space with the Red Line, then jostle for room with the Orange after switching south of Roosevelt, while O'Hare trains would get stuck behind local Blue Line trains. Despite not making any intermediate stops, the direct service would have taken just as long, if not longer, than the existing services. There was also the issue of capacity. Both the Blue and Red Lines were near or at peak capacity, especially during rush hour, so the CTA would have had to remove local trains in order to fit in the new direct service. Okay, so what would it take to have true express service? The study called for construction of one passing track on the Orange Line, and either a couple passing tracks on the Blue Line, or a completely new right-of-way underground. While the passing tracks would have let the Airport Express trains pass local trains, they only could have done so at those spots, and would still get stuck behind other locals elsewhere along the line. The new right-of-way adjacent to the Blue Line would have given express trains their own track, but only for a portion of the trip. Both options would have required a huge financial investment and the reconstruction of some stations along the lines. Neither the direct or express services came to be, as the Block 37 project faced economic issues, which eventually resulted in foreclosure in 2011. The airport superstation was closed off and left an empty, cavernous concrete shell, never seeing a single train or passenger. Not long after the demise of the Block 37 plan, the city of Chicago sent out a request for qualifications to design, build, finance, operate, and maintain an O'Hare Express train, trying again to establish such a service. After receiving responses from interested companies, then Mayor Rahm Emanuel chose a proposal from Elon Musk's Boring Company to build an underground transportation tunnel between the Loop and O'Hare. The service would utilize autonomous vehicles that could carry up to 16 passengers. The vehicles, called skates, would use 8 guide wheels along a concrete track, allegedly reaching speeds of up to 150 miles per hour. The company claimed that the trip would take approximately 12 minutes, and the system could carry up to 2,000 passengers per hour. Skates would leave as frequently as every 30 seconds to 2 minutes, and a ride would cost between $20 to $25. The Boring Company would bear the complete cost of building the system, but would also receive all ticket, advertisement, and branding revenue from the service. The company claimed it could build the 17-mile tunnel for just $1 billion, but critics claimed this figure was likely too low and didn't include the cost of building the stations. The city would never find out, as the plan died when Rahm Emanuel left office in 2018, as the two frontrunners for mayor that year, Lori Lightfoot and Tony Preckwinkle, both cast doubt on the feasibility and effectiveness of the proposal. Multiple city council members also disparaged the project, instead calling for investment into improving general CTA service. Ultimately, Musk's tunnel plan became what is now the Vegas Loop, and if I may opine, I think Chicago dodged a bullet. The L plan fell through and Musk's tunnel never broke ground, but there's another viable option for an O'Hare Express train, Metra's North Central service. The agency's newest line began service in 1996 and has a stop just outside of O'Hare. Metra is faster, only taking 34 minutes to make the trip between O'Hare and Union Station, and is comparable in price to the Blue Line. However, the North Central service was Metra's second least ridden line in 2023, while the CTA's O'Hare Blue Line stop saw over 5 times the commuter line's ridership. Why isn't this faster airport connection being used more? For starters, the North Central service only has 6 trains in each direction that stop at the O'Hare station, and mostly only in the peak direction. Oh, and it only runs on weekdays. Plus, while the Blue Line stops basically in the center of the airport, the Metra station is a couple miles away from the terminals. Passengers had to take a shuttle bus from the Metra station to the airport transit system, which then took them to the airport. Although a recent extension of the airport transit system in 2019 brought it closer to the Metra station and removed the need for a shuttle bus, it still adds a walk and an ATS ride to the journey. Together with the limited schedule, this makes taking Metra to and from the airport a much less convenient option. Improving the schedule of the North Central service by adding more trains and weekend service would help make the line a more viable option for travelers, despite the added transfer hassle. Metra actually did this temporarily in 2024, providing hourly service between Union and O'Hare for the Democratic National Convention, on weekdays and weekends. Despite the service only seeing about 2,400 riders, on their website, Metra says they want to make more frequent service, hourly or better, to O'Hare permanent, while admitting it will require an agreement with freight carriers Canadian National and CPKC, as well as substantial infrastructure and rolling stock improvements. Metra says improved O'Hare service is being studied as part of their system-wide network plan, part of their shift towards providing regional rail service. Developing any of these potential lines would require an enormous investment for land acquisition, track and facility construction, procurement of rolling stock, and more. Which begs the question, does Chicago really need an airport express service? As mentioned at the start of this video, the blue and orange lines are some of only a few transit options in the country that are viable alternatives to driving, and the O'Hare and Midway stations are among the most used in the system. While the new express service could provide a more premium, faster connection with the airport, critics of the plans claim that whatever money used for developing a new express service would be better utilized upgrading and improving the existing L services. For now, the local L continues to be the best way to access Chicago's airports from downtown. Metra's hourly DNC service has come and gone, with the agency studying a permanent service increase. Musk took his underground tunnel idea out west. And the CTA, despite having no imminent plans to use the Block 37 superstation, claims that it remains an asset with potential future value, potentially for connecting the two downtown subways. For now, its empty shell sits idle, a hidden reminder of a poorly planned express train that never left the station.